Hi, John. We're incredibly grateful that you're supporting us in our research regarding the impact of teaching materials, especially teacher-generated resources on the development of teaching skills, but also ultimately on effective learning. So my first question to you would be, why? Why are you supporting our impact research?
Well, Lola, I just think it's fascinating when you look at all the research that we do on teachers, schools, etc. The one huge missing gap is on lesson planning and the effects and impact of lessons. And given every teacher in the world goes home each night and worries about lesson planning, you've got to ask how we, particularly in the academic community, did better help understand. And did it have an impact? Given impact is not just on achievement, but it's on engaging kids in learning and turning them on to learning. And we actually don't know a lot about the answers to those questions. And that's why I'm excited about the work that you folks are doing.
We have launched our first impact survey not long ago and followed a survey-based approach to report teachers' attitudes towards teaching materials, on how they develop professionally, but also how they help them how they help the students learn better, the learners learn better, right? And these are some of the teacher attitudes and what they have expressed. The first one is teachers say that teacher-created materials have a higher impact on their professional development than materials created by other sources, such as publishing houses, etc. So I would like to hear your views on that first part.
Well, teachers are the decision makers in the classroom so often about what they're going to focus their teaching around, the materials. And when I hear them saying that they don't like publishers' materials, quite often that's inflicted upon them. You have to follow this particular line. And when they see materials that they feel are teacher-related, teacher-created, they feel that that's gone through that kind of sieve, that it's been adapted for the context, because all education's local. And so I just worry that we don't misinterpret this as saying that publishers' material is no good. It's often because it's inflicted and it's not allowed to be improved. And I want to work with teachers to continually improve what they're doing, as long as improving means that it's increasing the rigor, it's increasing the alignment, and it's increasing the impact. And I think we need to have a much more common set of language about how we do that amongst the teachers. And that's one of the attractions of the tool that you have, is that we can have that discussion, we can improve it.
Our second statement is that teachers say that teachers train teachers, but they feel trained through the materials they create and share. Right? So
no, they can, because again, they're passionate. Teachers are brilliant critics, and I mean that as an incredible positive. They're brilliant at picking out what works, what doesn't work, what could work better. And I think having that language, but the mistake is allowing each teacher to do it by themselves in their classrooms, behind their closed doors, and you just miss that critique. So yes, I do think there's a tremendous amount of value when teachers critique and improve, particularly when they have evidence of the impact of the lesson. They sit around and talk about where it worked, where it didn't work, in light of what kids did, and that must be the best resource for the next year.
Our third one is we discover how they feel is that teachers state that materials created by other teachers are more ready to use than published materials right there and then in their classroom.
You get a feel and a smell and a sense when other teachers create things compared to the publishers, which often has a slickness element to it, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But it's that compulsory notion that you must follow this line that teachers resist. So yes, I can understand why they say that. It doesn't mean necessarily that their material is better than the publisher, but they feel like they can have a say in improving it.
We have teachers using, creating, sharing materials, etc. So how does the impact of teaching materials on effective learning and effective teaching in relation to your work, to visible learning, feeling the need for research in education? Your research is already so vast, if not the vastest.
And given that is what is the daily work of every teacher, it seems quite remarkable that we as academics have not seen that as a worthwhile area of research. And that's where I think the work that you're doing and many others are doing around the world, if we can get away from choosing materials solely on the basis of we like it or alignment with curricula, but also on the basis of rigor and impact, I think we're going to make a dramatic improvement to the learning lives of kids, but also in sharing the resources that if we can calibrate them on the basis of those three indicators, that would be a very, very powerful notion.
Yes. So now you've actually done something amazing for us. You've taken the raw data of all our responses. I think it was 400,000 data points or something. You've analyzed them. And what made you take that step?
Well, the first thing I think we need to know when we look at a survey is what actually are we measuring? Sometimes, in fact, more often than not, it's not what we think and maybe not even what we want. And so I looked at your data and I saw two very clear factors come out. One related to effective instructional design, and it's kind of what you'd hope and expect. But the other factor, which was related but separate, related to teachers seeing themselves as improvement engines. They wanted to improve. They wanted to look whether the students liked to use it, whether it complemented their teaching, whether the resources saved them time, whether it developed them professionally, whether they were better than the materials they can create. Like, is there an added value? And that really came through very strong. And I was quite fascinated that when teachers choose and make decisions about lesson planning with that focus on improve me as a teacher was a much stronger and more powerful notion than when they choose things because they had effective instruction design. Not that effective instruction design was unimportant. It was important. But improving me as a teacher. And that's when I was actually quite surprised when we then looked, for example, at, as you said, the years of teaching. Teachers more than 10 years were more likely to choose materials on the basis of improving themselves as teachers than on effective design principles. And I thought that was quite remarkable that happened, because most of the research says after 10 years, teachers could almost do it in their sleep. Well, that's not what this is saying. Yeah, there's those experienced teachers out there have a very sharp focus on, I want to choose a lesson plan that's going to improve my impact as a teacher. I think that's exciting.
Teachers need to listen more, but also do we as an educational community listen to teachers enough?
The highest form of respect I can pay to you as a person is to demonstrate to you that I've listened to you. And this is the essence of the critique I was talking about, is can I stand in another teacher's shoes and understand what they're saying, why they're saying it, how they're saying it, etc. It's the starting point. And like the tools that you've got where you do listen to teachers' input. And there's hardly a teacher in the world that doesn't start from the premise, I want to improve what I do. And so teachers and improvements is a very powerful notion. And the way you improve is you listen. You listen to the critiques, you listen to what went well, you listen to what didn't well, you listen to the students, you listen to other teachers. And it's the starting point of all our conversations, all our interactions, and the way that we build as a community of our profession. And I just go back to the very first thing you asked me. We have a common denominator, planning lessons. What an incredible topic to focus our listening about.
All in all, why is it important that we do research in education as an edtech? I know it probably sounds obvious, but we want to hear what you think about it.
Well, I think, Lola, that what you're trying to do in your work and many others around the world are trying to do in lesson design is based on a simple premise. You also need to know your impact. And you need to do the research on your impact to demonstrate to your clients, in this case your teachers, that it is a worthwhile activity. Otherwise, it's just another lot of busy work. We do need to know the impact.